Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into some really thought-provoking source material to tackle a critical topic for any executive or crisis manager, and that's rethinking operational resilience. Because, during a major crisis, organizations often discover something pretty unsettling. Their perceived priorities are completely different from their actual priorities. So let's unpack exactly why that happens and how we can fix it.
Here is a quick look at how we're going to break this down. We'll start with the illusion of preparedness, move into the anatomy of a crisis, uncover invisible operational dependencies, define true business value, explore the real continuity mindset, and finish up with pathways to structural resilience.
All right, Section 1, the illusion of preparedness, or what happens when plans meet reality.
I want to start with a really provocative question. Why do organizations discover their true priorities only during a crisis? In a lot of companies, the priorities seem perfectly mapped out, right? The most important applications are known, the infrastructure is protected, the recovery plans are fully tested. And yet, when a major disruption actually hits, all those plans suddenly collide with reality. And reality usually has a few harsh surprises in store for us.
What this really exposes are the limits of what we call cold planning. Identifying applications and validating plans in a stable, predictable environment, well, it's absolutely necessary, but it relies on a purely theoretical representation of the organization. A live crisis profoundly alters that context. Suddenly, hidden dependencies emerge out of nowhere. What seemed absolutely critical maybe isn't, and what seemed like a secondary background task might actually be the one thing keeping your operations alive. The sheer chaos of a real disruption shatters that false sense of security that cold planning gives us.
Let's move to Section 2, Anatomy of a Crisis, where we'll look at a logistics case study to see this in action.
Picture a large logistics company. It's early on a Monday morning, and suddenly, multiple critical applications become unavailable. Red alerts are flashing everywhere. The executive crisis management room is convened immediately, and the IT teams jump into action. The backups are ready, the recovery plans exist, and very quickly, one priority emerges high above everything else: restore the core ERP system. For years, the executive board has treated this ERP like the absolute VIP of the business. So the technical teams work around the clock, under immense pressure, just to save it.
And after dozens of hours, success. The ERP server is fully restored. The databases are accessible, IT has done its job perfectly, and the CIO proudly reports that all technical indicators are green. But there's a huge problem. Out on the floor, the delivery trucks are sitting completely idle. Orders are totally blocked, shipments aren't moving, and customers are still waiting. The technical system is back online, sure, but the actual operational business is still completely halted.
So let's get into Section 3, the invisible operational dependency, and figuring out how to find the real bottleneck.
The crisis team launches an investigation. The data is right there. The servers are humming. The applications are responding perfectly. So why on earth can't operations restart? Gradually, they discover a missing link. It turns out a secondary repository used for pricing and compliance validations hadn't been restored. Now, this particular component was never considered critical by anyone. It was always just viewed as a minor supporting service, kind of like the forgotten middle child of the IT architecture.
But let's trace the operational consequences of that one missing piece. Without that overlooked repository, there is no order approval. Without approval, warehouse preparation simply can't happen. And without preparation, there is absolutely no shipment. The crisis suddenly revealed an unexpected reality for the boardroom. The root problem wasn't the main ERP system at all. The true bottleneck was this invisible dependency that nobody had ever identified as critical to the actual business process.
Which brings us to Section 4, defining true business value and shifting our focus. What this whole scenario illustrates is a massive, necessary shift in mindset. Organizations naturally tend to believe they're protecting critical systems, but a crisis proves that what they actually need to protect are critical operational capabilities. In our logistics example, the true value of the business wasn't carried by the ERP servers. The value is carried by the organization's capability to take a customer's order and physically transform it into a delivered product. To really grasp this, it helps to trace the journey of a business object. Let's say a customer order. An order that's just sitting idle in a database generates absolutely zero value. It only creates value when it actively moves through a very specific sequence. It has to be validated, physically prepared, delivered, and finally invoiced. The value strictly comes from this active business transformation, not just from safely storing the data. And what exactly makes up this transformation chain?
Well, these business objects progress through chains that mobilize way more than just the IT department. Yes, they need data and infrastructure, of course, but they also heavily rely on people, critical human validations, physical, operational flows, and even external partners. When a crisis hits, these end-to-end chains suddenly become painfully visible. It's only under that extreme pressure that the real, hidden bottlenecks, the ones spanning far beyond just the servers, finally show themselves.
Let's look at Section 5, the real continuity mindset and the ransom-kick approach.
I want to pause deliberately right here, because this is a heavy axiomatic statement. Restoring an IT system does not mean restoring a business activity. It sounds so simple when you say it out loud, but for an executive board, the operational consequences of this reality are absolutely immense. Restoring a database is not restoring a business capability. Bringing infrastructure back online is not the same as restoring actual business value.
So how do we adapt to this? This is exactly where the Ransom-Kick Resilience Model comes in. It's built on one powerful, clarifying idea. Priorities have to be defined by the operational value produced by the organization rather than solely on technical components. It completely shifts the question we ask during an incident. We stop asking, which system should we restore first, and instead we ask, which operational capability absolutely must be preserved. For decision makers, this changes the entire dynamic under pressure. It shines a light on those invisible dependencies and forces the boardroom to focus on what actually matters to the survival of the company.
Finally, Section 6, Pathways to Structural Resilience and Maintaining Coherence.
The thing is, understanding these deep operational dependencies can't just live in the heads of a few seasoned experts in your company. As you scale, you need a structured, reliable way to link activities, trace those business objects, map out the hidden dependencies, and tightly align your recovery capabilities. Environments like archorganist.app are designed specifically to structure this kind of coherence. The goal isn't just to generate static compliance documents, it's to preserve actual human understanding and maintain a living map of what genuinely keeps the business breathing.
I want to leave you with a provocative thought to chew on. If the real challenge isn't just restoring servers and systems, then the real question every executive needs to be asking is this: which business transformations absolutely need to continue no matter what? What actually carries the value in your organization? Making that shift is how you build a true continuity mindset. It's a profound reflection and definitely something we'll be exploring a lot more in future explainers.
Thank you so much for joining me today. These insights are all part of the ongoing development of the Ransom-Kick Resilience Model and archionist.app. I'm going to leave these links up on the screen for a few moments so you can jot them down. You can find a wealth of resources at ransomkick.com, archionist.app, and on the Archeon Group YouTube channel. I highly encourage you to check them out. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you next time as we continue our deep dive into real operational resilience.